Sarah Jensen's drive home was supposed to be just another exhausted commute after a double shift. But when she pulled over on a dark highway to help a bleeding Marine, risking her own safety in the process, she had no idea she was setting off a chain of gratitude that would bring an entire company of uniformed men and women to her front lawn by sunrise. What they told her didn't just change how she saw one soldier's life, it changed how she saw her own. All because of one impossible decision made in the dark. Before we dive into Sarah's incredible story, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Stories like this one remind us why kindness matters, and you won't want to miss what happens next. So let me tell you about Sarah Jensen. She's in her mid-30s, single mom, works as an ER nurse down in North Carolina, and honestly, life's been kicking her butt lately. Picture this. She's constantly juggling everything, working these crazy long shifts, bills are always piling up, and she's got this sweet 8-year-old daughter who loves bedtime stories that Sarah's usually too wiped out to finish reading. That particular night, she'd just pulled a 16-hour shift. 16 hours on her feet, dealing with everything you can imagine in an ER. She was driving home basically on autopilot. You know that feeling? And then her headlights hit something by the side of the road. Something that definitely didn't belong there. At first glance, Sarah thought it was just trash or maybe a dead animal. But then, whatever it was, moved. Her heart just about jumped out of her chest. And look, part of her brain was screaming, "Keep driving. It's almost midnight. You're alone on this empty road. This could be anything." But here's the thing about Sarah. She's been working trauma for years. That other part of her, the nurse part, slammed on those brakes without even thinking. She flipped on her hazard lights, grabbed her emergency kit from the car, and started dialing 911 as she's running toward whatever this was. Her hands are shaking because honestly, what if this was some kind of setup? What if someone was trying to carjack her? But when she got closer, she saw this young guy wearing partial military gear, dog tags around his neck, covered in blood. He was barely conscious, mumbling something about a training range, some kind of accident. Something had gone wrong while he was moving equipment between military posts. Sarah couldn't figure out exactly what happened. Maybe shrapnel from a blown tire or some unsecured cargo shifting around. But she knew enough to keep pressure on that bleeding until help arrived. When the ambulance showed up, she rode with them back to the hospital. The same ER she'd literally just clocked out of a few hours earlier. As they're wheeling this Marine in, he grabs her hand and says, "Tell my commanding officer, I tried." That just hit her right in the gut. She didn't even know this kid's name yet. And here he is worried about disappointing his CO. After everything was said and done, she drove home in a daze. Her scrub top was stiff with dried blood, and she just kept replaying everything in her head. She finally crawled into bed around 5 a.m. But sleep? Yeah, that wasn't happening. Her heart was still racing, and she kept thinking maybe she could have done more, you know? Then, around 7 a.m., her daughter's voice cuts through everything. "Mom, Mom, you need to come look outside. There's soldiers everywhere in our yard." Sarah bolted to that window and just froze. Marines. Not just a few. We're talking 20, maybe 30 Marines standing at perfect attention in her front yard. The grass was still wet with morning dew, and these guys are just standing there like statues. There were a few in those fancy dress blue uniforms at the front, and military vehicles lined up and down her street like something out of a movie. Her first thought? Pure panic. Like, oh no, am I in trouble? Did I mess up some kind of protocol last night? She walked outside in her pajama pants, because what else do you do in that situation? Her heart pounding so hard she could hear it. This serious-looking officer steps forward and introduces himself as Colonel Richards. And then, and this is where it gets me every time, he snaps to attention, and every single Marine behind him follows suit. They're all saluting her. "Ma'am," he says, "you saved Corporal Morales' life last night. He's stable because of what you did. And these Marines? Every single one of them volunteered to be here this morning. That young man is family to us." Colonel Richards pulls out this small velvet box and opens it up. Inside is what's called a challenge coin. It's got their unit's emblem on it, really beautiful piece. These coins aren't something we usually give to civilians, he explained. But what you did last night, stopping alone on a dark road for a wounded Marine, that's the kind of courage and loyalty we stand for. Sarah was so choked up she couldn't even speak, just standing there with tears rolling down her face. Then another Marine steps up, younger guy, and you could tell he'd been crying. "Ma'am, Corporal Morales is my brother. I'm stationed here too. If you hadn't stopped last night, I'd be planning his funeral right now instead of standing in your yard." He hugged her so hard she almost dropped that coin. Just this big, tough Marine breaking down because someone showed kindness to his family. Sarah's little daughter had been peeking around the door this whole time, probably wondering what the heck was going on. The Marines saw her and just melted. They broke formation and started pulling out pins, stickers, even this tiny unit patch for her. These tough guys turned into big softies around this 8-year-old. Later, her daughter whispered to Sarah, "Mom, are we part of their family now too?" A few weeks later, Sarah drove out to the base to visit Morales. He was up and walking around with a cane, grinning like he'd won the lottery. They sat and talked over coffee. Not about military stuff or anything heavy, just about family, about life. Regular conversation between two people who'd been through something together. Morales promised he'd come to her daughter's next school play, just so he could see her light up when she spotted him in the audience. That challenge coin found a permanent home on Sarah's nightstand. A little reminder of how one simple act of being human can create ripples you never saw coming. Some nights, Sarah would find her daughter asleep on the couch, clutching that coin in her little hands. "It keeps the heroes close," she'd mumble when Sarah would carry her to bed. And you know what? Sarah realized that's exactly what it did. Picture Sarah closing her front door at night, porch light casting this warm glow over that patch of grass where all those Marines once stood. Just a small, ordinary yard that became something sacred because someone chose to be decent when it mattered. Stories like Sarah's remind us that heroes aren't just the people in uniform. Sometimes they're the exhausted nurse who stops when everyone else keeps driving. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that restore your faith in humanity. I'll see you in the next one.